What's up everybody, and thank you for joining me for another video. My name is Whack4863, but you can call me Whack. In today's video, I'm going to break down some of the highlights, some of the things that I took away from the developer live stream from Funcom from earlier today. Now, these are my thoughts and opinions. You can let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below, but if you haven't watched the entirety of the live stream, I do recommend getting over and checking that out. And I'll put those links in the description of this video. However, I am going to play some clips from the live stream in this video, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts about them after the clip plays. Now, there is quite a bit packed into this live stream that they did today, including the announcement of some of the things that are coming in Update 2.4, and I'm going to cover a few of those things in this video, but I, again, recommend you get over and watch the entire stream, as I'm not going to cover absolutely everything in this video. Also, if you're new here, I'd encourage you to click that subscribe button, click that bell so you get notified when I upload another tip, trick, or gameplay video.
I think we did end up moving one camp, maybe. I can't remember if we actually did, Dennis.
Oh, we left it.
We left it. Well,
yeah.
We ignored your feedback. No.
Yeah.
We ignored your feedback.
Yeah.
We ignored your feedback.
Yeah.
We ignored your feedback.
Whoa! Bombs dropped. And you guys are probably going to think that I'm going to go negative on this one, and I'm actually not. I'm going to go positive on this one. It's okay, Funcom, for you guys to ignore feedback. I feel like a lot of the times you take directions from too many different sources. I feel like you don't have a measurement system in place that says, does this change fit with what Conan Exiles was planned to be originally? I feel like that has hindered your recent changes. I'd say almost the entire last year's worth of changes has been hindered by the fact that you take too much feedback from too many sources and you don't measure it against what your initial plan was. Honestly, I think Scott Jr. is just a really nice guy. He's into getting all the information that he can get from across all the different platforms and ways that he can get the information. I think that receiving feedback is absolutely a good thing, but I feel like there's too many sources of information, too much feedback that is actually making it into the game and is not being measured against the initial vision for Conan Exiles. And I've said this multiple times to Funcom, whether it be publicly or privately, that I feel like they need to be able to measure all the changes that they're making against their initial vision for the game. And I'm going to give you an example of one of those things, one of those areas where I feel like there was a vision and we've strayed from that vision, or Funcom has strayed from that vision. And this is a clip from almost a year ago when they were talking about the updates to followers.
We're working on a pass just to make things a bit more logical, so that as a teaser, we don't want Thralls to be the heroes, right? The exiles should be the heroes.
Now, if we look at the patches that have since been released, we look at what's on live, we look at what's going on test live, can you point out a single spot where you feel like your character is more the hero than it was prior to the followers update? And for me personally, I can't. I can point out areas where I feel like the player character is actually less the hero than it was before. Now, some of these changes have been good for the game, like the healing change. That is something that makes sense and is good for the game. However, it doesn't make my character any more of the hero. Additionally, the changes to stamina, the changes to the role, all those things that have come in and affected the character, those changes cannot be measured against this statement and say that they fall in line with the player being more of the hero. If anything, those changes have made us more reliant on Thralls than we were prior to this patch. Now, I definitely understand that Funcom is in a difficult position here. They're in a position where basically they have the PvE side that is saying, well, I feel like I just let my Thrall do everything. And then you have the PvP side that is like, well, I'm getting wrecked by this, that, the other, and, these changes need to be made. So, you know what? You made your bed, you have to sleep in it, and you have to figure out how to balance the system to the point where it's measuring up to both PvP and PvE player expectations. And no matter what type of game mode you play, it doesn't matter if you play PvP or PvE, both game modes are available in the game and there are players in both game modes. So the ultimate goal is, how do you satisfy both game modes to the point where they're both having a fun experience? And that is where Funcom has to figure out, where is the vision? What is the vision for the game? Where do we want to be next month, next year? And then the feedback that's coming in, does it line up with that vision? That is the number one thing that, if I say anything in this video Funcom needs to do, they absolutely have to have a vision for the game going forward.
I saw some people asking for the console date. We can't give that. We're in certification right now, so as soon as that passes, we'll be able to give the exact date. Since we're enabling the device profiles for Series X and Series S, we had to pass full cert, so it takes longer than normal. But we will hopefully have some updates, next week sometime, maybe late next week.
So soon, very soon.
Yeah.
Since we're in the certification,
yeah.
Since we're in the certification process, it's like a matter of like weeks and not like months or something like that.
Right. Yeah. The 2.3 patch will go out on consoles. By the end of the month is what we are aiming for right now.
So that's great news for console players. Your expectation should be that you get update 2.3 by March 31st. Anything prior to that or before that would just be gravy. It would be cake. You would have it earlier than what your expectations are. So I would not plan on having update 2.3 before March 31st. However, you are not going to get Siptah with update 2.3, which is really baffling to me. Honestly, I have to give a little bit of credit here to Jade PG, because he's been kind of leading the charge for console players to not have to pay full price for Siptah if it's still being developed. And Siptah is still being developed. So while I know that bums a lot of you out because you are in dire need or want of new, fresh content, it's probably still a good thing that it's not coming to you, because you would end up paying full price for something that isn't fully finished and completed. And honestly, update 2.3 changes enough about the game that you're gonna need some time to relearn things and figure out how different things work, where to get certain resources, how the new crafting system and the new Thrall system works. And yes, I will have guides covering that as update 2.3 comes out, and those old guides that I have become outdated, I will do new guides for that content. But not having Siptah thrown into the mix on that as well is probably going to be a good thing for you.
Well, great. Yeah, Scott, Dennis, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Taking your time. Special thanks also to Marcin for joining us earlier, talking about the technical aspects. Thank you for watching. I think that about wraps it up for today's stream. Thank you all for tuning in. Looking forward to the launch of 2.3 on Steam Tuesday.
For those of you that are on PC, obviously from this clip, it sounds like on March 16th, Tuesday, next Tuesday, you are going to get update 2.3. It was kind of odd because if you watch through the whole thing, they kind of meander around when 2.3 is actually going to come out on PC, but then at the end of the stream, Andy just drops the day, and maybe that's correct, maybe it's not. I don't know if maybe he wasn't supposed to say it and he slipped up, or whether he was supposed to say it, I don't know. But like I said, March 16th, next Tuesday, if you're on PC, you should expect to see update 2.3 come through your Steam updater. And if you're playing on Siptah on an official server, this is the map that you need to go over to make sure that you don't have a base in those red locations. If you do have a base in those red locations, you can consider it gone. It's gonna go poof, it's gonna explode, and it's not gonna be there. So make sure that you get out of those locations. And they didn't do this in the live stream, but I'm gonna do it in my video. In the description of this video is a link where you can download this map so that you don't have to search around to find it. I know it's on the forums in different places, it's in my Discord, but there'll be a link in the description of this video to download this map.
You guys have been told or hinted at that we are adding a lot more landmass in 2.4, and we do plan to add Greyflower, Lupine, Obsidian, and Sandbeast Bioglands in 2.4. The potion of Bestial Memory is a drop from alpha creatures on the island already. So if you find like an alpha rock nose or something like that, you can kill it and get that potion. But like I mentioned before, we are keeping the maps different on purpose, and this is one of those things that if you want to learn how to craft it, we expect you to do it in Exiled Lands and then bring it to other maps.
So there's a couple of things to unpack from this clip. First of all, I'm going to go all the way to the end of the clip and talk about the fact that you are going to be able to transfer your character between maps. Additionally, when you transfer your character, all the items, all the things, all the feats that you have learned are going to come with you. So we know that for a fact. That means that your attribute setup, the way your character looks, and all the feats that you've learned will transfer from one to the other. We still don't know if any inventory items will be able to be transferred or not. I'm sure we'll find that out in the future. Now that patch is coming in update 2.4 as rumored in the live stream that they did today. We'll see if it actually makes it in there or not. They did hint around that they're working on getting it in 2.4, so that's the intention, but some of those mechanics can be hard to figure out, so it may or may not make it. Now this was an answer to a question about certain resources being available on the Isle of Siptah, and one of the things that was brought up was the potion of bestial memory. And while the answer did suffice the question, the fact is you can obtain this potion on the Isle of Siptah. However, this specific potion has a very short decay timer. So basically you are out and about, you're enjoying a stroll, you could use a potion of bestial memory because you would like to revamp your character. You want to put different stats. You don't want to have to learn all those feats again. And this particular potion lets you just reset your attributes. The answer is kill that thing, harvest those bestial memory potions, and then basically stop and use it right then and there. Don't run around with it because you're gonna lose it if you run around with it. I'm not sure that the devs understand how short that timer really is in the grand scheme of things because of the way that they answered this. And this is why the question was posed in the first place. It's something that has a very, very short timer, and it's hard to utilize those when you find them on the map. You want those in a specific situation when you're ready to make that change. So in my opinion, and likely the opinion of the person that posted that question, because they already knew that it could be obtained in the Isle of Siptah, this doesn't solve the underlying issue. And the underlying issue is that it's difficult to use those potions when you find them. So the solve is you either increase the decay timer so that you can actually get it back to your preservation box, or you make it available to craft on the Isle of Siptah, and it probably should just be something that you're able to learn right there on the Isle.
We are at a point where I can say that we're going to be adding a system to transfer characters between servers, and this will let you move from a Siptah server to an Exiled Land server or vice versa. And being able to transfer will let go to those different maps for unlocks that you can't get in other maps.
So what I take away from this clip is that everything that you can learn in the Exiled Lands, you'll be able to craft in the Isle of Siptah, because they are planning on bringing all of the resources from the main map to the Isle of Siptah. Vice versa doesn't work currently, however, so there is no way to get Eldarium on the Exiled Lands, which means that the recipes that require Eldarium in the Siptah map will not be transferred to the Exiled Lands, which I don't know that that's necessarily a problem, because a lot of the recipes that you learn for weapons on the Isle of Siptah are really more suited to the gameplay that you're going to find on the Isle of Siptah, but I'm just not sure where I lie on this one 100%, and I want to know what you think in the comment section below. Should we be allowed to have Eldarium in the Exiled Lands so that we can utilize the recipes from the Isle of Siptah?
Will the follower cap ever be activated on official servers?
Yes. It will probably be in 2.4. So We'll explain all the changes that we're going to do for it for 2.4, give the exact amounts, and then give people plenty of heads up before it actually gets released.
Yeah,
but
so that y'all can
it
prepare
is
accordingly.
it is one of the performance issues that servers have, right? If there's 9,000 thralls in addition to the 7,500 NPCs on the server, that's it's quite taxing. So we had to put some restrictions on the official servers. It will be optional, just so private servers don't need to use it if they don't want to.
This is a change that just needs to be implemented. They were working on it well over a year ago. If you remember the clip that I played earlier where we was talking about the player being a hero, they talked about the follower limit all the way back then, and that clip is from a live stream almost a year ago. He goes on to talk about the fact that private servers will be able to choose whether you have a follower limit or not. I personally run multiple servers and I have the follower limit turned on all of my servers. And I think that's a pretty standard practice across the private servers, or at least the ones that I know. I want to know in the comment section below, if you have a private server, do you have the follower limit turned on already, or are you planning on leaving it off?
Any plans of adding fast travel on the Isle of Siptah?
Let me just stop right there and say this absolutely needs to be in the Isle of Siptah. This is a mechanic that maybe you implemented originally with the exiled lands based on the size of the map. However, this is something that your players have come to expect, and it will really make a huge difference in people playing the Isle of Siptah. When you have to move across the map by foot or by mount, if that's the only option, it adds to the grind of the game. You know you have to make the trip there, you know you have to make the trip back, which means that you're spending a lot of time traveling. Fast travel is just something that we kind of expect in games now, especially when they have large maps. Obviously, if you got a smaller map, a very small map in a game, then you don't need the fast travel. But fast travel's been implemented to Conan Exiles already. I see no reason why they shouldn't have it in the Isle of Siptah. But we'll continue the clip so that you can hear the official response.
That's still to be determined. I've actually started exploring that this week. After having looked at how much landmass we're adding in 2.4, it might be a good time to add a fast travel system. And we may add a fast travel system that can be used regardless of what map you're on as well. We don't want to invalidate the map room, but it would be nice to give explorers more ability to explore.
So we need to see how people playtest when we add the new lands. And yeah, if it takes forever to get areas, like Den was saying, we'll evaluate that and add a method to help out.
Now I'm just going to circle back here and say that both the Exiled Lands and the Isle of Siptah are not the easiest maps to traverse, which makes them fun, it makes them exciting, it adds to the depth of the map. So adding a fast travel system, again, I feel like is just a core mechanic that has to be implemented for the Isle of Siptah.
Yeah, so I think this is one, everyone that's been clamoring about PvP in chat, pay close attention.
Stop it! I named this clip, when I cut this out of the video, I named this clip PvP changes. And the reason why is because as they're talking about the changes, they're talking about PvP changes. Guys, the changes that you're making to PvP are the same changes you're making to PvE. It does not matter. So, unless it's only going to change that game mode, you can no longer use the term PvP changes. Yes, it's going to affect PvP. It's also going to affect PvE. I personally feel like anytime we label a change to be specific for a certain game mode, first of all, we've lost the vision of being able to balance the game across both game modes. I also feel like this causes division within your community. So your players decide that it's a PvP change and the PvE players automatically hate it because it's a PvP change. On the other side, when there's a PvE change, your PvP players either hate it or they discount it because it's a PvE change. Again, going back to my point of having a vision for your game. You need to have a vision for your game that encompasses both PvP and PvE, and you have got to stop labeling certain changes as this is a PvE change, this is a PvP change. No, it's a change to Conan Exiles as a whole, and this is how it will affect this game mode. This is how it may affect that game mode.
We don't have a plan to do a full reversion on those values, but in 2.4, we are planning on making changes. And I'll say this too, this caveat. This obviously is 2.4. It's not even on test live yet. So whenever it goes to test live, this will be included in the patch notes, and everybody that has a vested interest should come give us your feedback so we can make changes to make sure we get it right the first time.
Yeah, and there's other PvP changes in 2.4 also. I don't know if you wanted to
Definitely.
give any sneak previews, Dennis.
I absolutely will. Let
so
me get
people
through
stop
this
saying the
part
same
first.
thing in chat
Okay,
over
yeah.
and over and over again.
Sure. So the first thing I'll say is we're nerfing horses. So you will no longer do 2 times damage with a spear on horseback that applies a bleed.
And again, another change that they're calling a PvP change that will affect both game modes and goes against what I feel like they said their initial goal was. Make the player the hero. Yes, there's an issue with horses. You get on a horse and all of a sudden, you know what? Your player is better than somebody that is on the ground. Why couldn't we not look at a nerf and look at a buff instead? Why can't you look at the character and say, okay, we've got this issue with horses. How do we buff the player in order to combat this issue with horses? And in my mind, a change along that frame of thinking is not only in line with your vision, but it's also a PvE and PvP change, because if the player gets buffed and you are able to engage in PvE content in a better way, that's good for PvE. If the player gets buffed and you're able to engage in PvP content in a better way, that is good for PvP. You see where I'm going here? You need to bring the 2 lines of the game together, the 2 modes of the game together, and start making decisions based on the whole.
Horses, yeah, everything across the board with horses, it will not be the way to play anymore. It will be an option, but it will not be a requirement. Coming back to dodge, which I think is also a really big topic. Like I said, we're not going to nerf the iframes, but what we are going to do is make changes to the iframe window and make it so dodges scale with your encumbrance instead of your armor type. So instead of scaling your dodge with your armor class, we want you to be able to spec into an attribute and wear gear that enables different builds for different armor types instead of always having the best dodge in light armor. So the dodge window is changing. Currently it's 0.4 seconds of invulnerability, and it's going to go down to 0.35 no matter what. The distance of the dodge was 3.7 meters before. It's going to be 4.4 meters now, again, no matter what.
Okay, so this is great. The dodge no longer gets affected by your armor class or any of that stuff. You could still buff it with agility. And he talked about encumbrance, which I'm going to get into here in a moment when we finish the clip. But honestly, I really like this part of the change. I think this is the kind of thinking that you should have with all of the changes. How are we buffing the character? How are we taking all these classes and making them work together? Now, I will say this is the constant back and forth that you have with Conan Exiles and the changes that they have. So light armor right now gives you the best roll, so everyone's using light armor. Once they make this change, everybody's going to be using heavy armor. And that's just the way that people are going to play. They're going to choose the best possible way to go into battle. Now, they've tried to combat that with the encumbrance part of this, and I'm going to play that clip now.
Encumbrance will dictate your roll speed and your recovery speed out of the roll. So the more encumbered you are, the slower you roll and the slower you recover. But recovery is still modified by agility. So, and on top of that, the base recovery speed was increased by 30% as well. So dodge will become a big time comeback mechanic again. And I expect that with these changes, a skilled player will be able to take out multiple players instead of being completely mobbed just by the number of players they're facing.
Why? Why would it be that a skilled player will be able to take out a number of players simply because they make a single change to the dodge mechanic? It absolutely does not make sense, and it doesn't balance the game. What you are actually saying is that since we made these changes, we think that solo players will be able to handle more people, which means the engagements are actually not going to get better, they're going to get worse. In the grand scheme of things in PvP, numbers should always win. That's just the fact of the matter. That is the way it is across any game that you play. You go on Call of Duty, you have a full squad that's in voice chat together, and they wreck shop against the other squad of a bunch of different randoms playing together. That's just PvP. That's the way it goes. Saying that you are going to make a change that inevitably you think will give a single player the upper hand against multiple players shows me that your idea of balance is way off skew, because there's no way that a single player should be able to wreck a whole bunch of players doing the exact same thing. Are we talking about an MLG pro player going up against a bunch of noobs? That's a totally different subject. If we're talking about 2 skilled players or 1 skilled player going up against 4 skilled players, there's no way that that 1 skilled player should be able to overcome 4 other skilled players. That's the balance. You cannot say that, oh, we're balancing it so that 1 skilled player can take out 4 other skilled players. That's not balance.
Great. Chat seems to be very, very happy about
Yeah,
this.
they're pretty pumped about the horse stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and PvP changes.
Now I'm going to say you gave them one option. You told them, hey, we know there's an issue with the horse. We're going to solve that issue with the horse. Not that, hey, we've got multiple ways to solve this issue with the horse. What we could do is we could make on the horse combat much, much worse than it is right now. Or we could take this other path of buffing the player and making him the hero so that it levels out with horse combat. And a lot of other things in the exiled lands. You know what? You're going to have a little bit easier time defeating the king beneath. You're going to have a little bit easier time running a loop through the unnamed city. And you know what? Your PvP interactions and engagements are going to be a little bit longer because both players are going to be a little bit stronger. If you came out and said these are the 2 options to the community, do you think they would choose the option of, yes, let's nerf the horse combat, or do you think they would choose the option of, yeah, let's buff the player? And in my mind, I think they would choose the option of buffing the player. Of course, people are happy to see a change to something that's been out of balance in the game for quite some time. Who wouldn't be happy to see something like that get fixed? All in all, the information and the things that they're changing in the game from this dev stream alone is a mixed bag for me. And again, this is just my thoughts and opinions. They can take and leave whatever I put on the table. If they decide that what I say does not line up with their vision, that's perfectly fine. Go ahead and proceed with the development of the game the way that you want to. Each one of us as gamers are going to make our own decision about whether we enjoy the gameplay after these updates and after these patches have come out. And that's for each one of us to decide. Something that I may really like may be something that you absolutely dislike. And I want to know your thoughts and opinions on the changes and the updates that are coming to Conan Exiles. Leave those in the comment section below. The whack moments in this video were sponsored by my legendary supporters. If you'd like to become a member, you can click the button below that says join. That'll give you all the details. And if you want to continue the fun, there's 2 videos on the screen. You can pick one of those to watch next. Please don't forget to whack the like button. And if you're new to the channel, I'd encourage you to click that subscribe button, click that bell so you get notified when I upload another video.